outside, I see the born of no return. It's just ahead now, it's just ahead now. Can't you see we're rushing for the end? I see the point of no return. Now see the point of no return. It's just
Well, good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday again, July 29th, 2014. This year just seems to be going so fast. You know, I think we could probably slow things down a little bit, and a lot of us would breathe a little easier. But, you know, what are you going to do? It is what it is. The year is pretty much 7 months gone. You know, I was watching the chat room on the way in, you know, and one of the fellows, I guess, was chiming in from Japan, was talking about how weather in Japan is just absolutely sweltering. You know, they're apparently melting over there. You know, apparently at least a couple people, some say as many as 15, are dead from a heat wave in Japan, and depending on whose reports you read, somewhere between some hundreds or some thousands, depending on how sensationalist the news media is, have been hospitalized. So, you know, the Japanese are apparently suffering with a really torturous heat wave right now, hopefully unrelated to Fukushima. Well, here on the east coast of the U.S., we've had unseasonably pleasant weather. I mean, we're usually sweltering here in the mid-Atlantic with, you know, temperatures in the, you know, high 90s and humidity so thick you can darn near swim through the air. And, you know, it's been absolutely lovely here in the mid-Atlantic states of the U.S. over the last 10 days. So my sympathies with the Japanese. It appears you got the weather that we normally get. And things have been actually kind of pleasant for us. Let's see, you know, long about September of 2001, you know, we had this incident where supposedly some Arab terrorists with box cutters hijacked some airplanes, flew them into some buildings. You know, most everybody nowadays refers to it as the 9/11 incident, or the 9/11 tragedy, or, you know, whatever you prefer to call it. Now, you know, there's the official story, of course. You know, these fellers, most of them Saudis, Wahhabis, devout Muslims who like to snort cocaine and date hookers, took over these airliners using nothing more than simple box cutters, and flew these airplanes into these towers, and of course that's what brought them down. Most people look at the official story and, you know, I mean, I think there's probably very few out there who really buy in to the official story. But, you know, you'd have quite a few competing explanations for what happened. You know, you got the No Planes group out there saying, no, wasn't airplanes, it was holograms. Yeah, that's the ticket. And you got the group out there saying, space-based energy weapons knock those buildings down. Yeah, that's the ticket. Hey, you got this other group saying, no, the whole thing was orchestrated with nanothermite, and a bunch of Israelis who worked for an elevator repair company went in and wired those buildings to be brought down months before some say even years before the event, and it was all pre-planned. You know, you got this other group, you know, thankfully they're in the minority, but there is a group out there who swears up and down that George Bush and Dick Cheney were in the Situation Room in the White House with this golden Xbox. And they're sitting there with these golden Xbox controllers, and they were the ones who flew drone airplanes into all these buildings, knocked everything down, and that, you know, they personally pushed the buttons that brought those buildings down. Well, see, that's the way this nation works it, okay? The idea is to get you folks out there who think it was space-based beam weapons, and those folks of you out there who think it was nanothermite, and those folks of you out there who thinks it was micro-nukes, and those of you who think George Bush and Cheney did it with that golden Xbox. They do their best to get you all going at each other, just fighting and fussing amongst yourselves, instead of having you come to the realization that, gee, you know, regardless of how it was brought down, bottom line is we was all lied to. This government that in theory we elected, this government that in theory we pay for, this government which in theory is supposed to be operating on our behalf, lied to us. They lied to us. They told us a bull-faced lie. And it wasn't but minutes after those towers hit the ground that they already knew who did it. Yeah, everybody on the news saying, oh, Osama did it. Oh, Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden did it. He's the bad guy. He's running around in the cave in Tora Bora over in Afghanistan. Yeah. We got to go kick Afghanistan's ass. Yeah. So now, it's been more than a decade. And we're still out there fighting over whether it was space-based beam weapons, nanothermite, micro-nuke, or George Bush and Dick Cheney with a golden Xbox. And they're laughing at us. They are laughing at us because in the 13 years since 9/11, you have seen your God-given rights eroded more than in any period ever in history. Not even during the days of paranoia that accompanied World War II, when we were looking under every rock for Nazi spies and Japanese sympathizers. You know, I mean, you talk about a paranoid period of time. World War II was a paranoid period in time. But not even the paranoia of World War II compares to what you have proven to be willing to put up with since 9/11. All they had to do was wave this bearded boogeyman in front of you, and you submit to a virtual strip search at the airport. You know, they're sticking their hands where nobody should be sticking their hands except your significant other. Take your shoes off. Take your belt off. Go over there, spread your legs, and bend over. More of your God-given rights have been eroded in the 13 years since the 9/11 incident than ever before in history. So y'all just keep arguing amongst yourselves, keep arguing about how it was space-based beam weapons or micro-nukes or nanothermite or Dick Cheney and George Bush with their golden Xbox. Y'all just keep arguing about that while they laugh at you. Now, the theme of tonight's presentation, and hopefully I'll be able to get through this monstrous pile of material I've got in front of me. Hopefully I'll be able to wade through it. The theme of tonight's presentation is, do you really feel any safer now? I mean, We conquered Iraq, right? Mission accomplished, right? We conquered Afghanistan, right? Mission accomplished, right? You know, we made sure that that evil SOB Gaddafi was out of Libya, right? And we got us a brand new favorable government in Egypt, right? How's all that working out for you? Huh? Huh? How's that working out? Do you feel any safer today than you did prior to 9/11? Let's get into it and see what's happened recently that should give you a warm fuzzy about how safe and secure your elected officials are keeping you. Do you live down in Texas or perhaps one of the other border states? You know, you guys down there are being overwhelmed with what can only be described as an invasion. Okay, I'll take a lot of heat from all the sympathizers, all those, you know, sympathetic folks out there who think, you know, we should just open our doors to all the problems of the world. I'll take a little heat from it, and go ahead, you know, do your worst. See what you can get away with. Well, Governor Ricky Perry, who is looking very, very presidential these days. Please not Rick Perry. I mean, this guy's a Bilderberg bought out, okay? He is owned and operated by, you know, the worst of the worst. He's a New World Order shill. But, you know, he did a symbolic move and ordered 1,000 National Guard to the border of Texas and Mexico. Now, don't y'all down there in Texas feel a lot safer now that you got 1,000 National Guard guarding your border, gonna keep all those illegal aliens out of here? Well, you know, here's the flip side. Here's what Ricky Perry said to justify what he did. Let's give his side of the story first. It is a powerful reminder that what you're doing is a crime. It's like a law enforcement effort in your neighborhood where you set a parked police car on the corner and the bad guys see it and don't commit a crime. No, what they do is they go down the road half a mile and, you know, and that's what the illegal aliens will do. Now, these National Guard that are being shipped down here, they have been given no arrest authority. They cannot detain anybody. Now, Perry has the authority to give the National Guard weapons and ammunition and police authority. He can say, hey, look, if you catch anybody coming across that border, you know, you grab them. You know, he can give them that authority. He has chosen not to. What Ricky Perry has done in Texas is bullshit, okay? But it is designed to make you feel good. It's showtime. And Ricky Perry is trying to look very, very presidential. How about this one? Illegal immigrant demonstrators were protesting outside the White House on Monday. That's just yesterday. But don't expect America's immigration officers to intervene. No. Under a policy that's been in effect for several years, ICE focuses on deportation, mostly on serious criminals. And in some cases, those caught in the act of crossing the border. The agency prioritizes deportation for felons, repeat offenders, gang members, and others with a serious criminal record. But the agency largely gives a pass to other undocumented, I love it, undocumented residents. This is why illegal immigrant activists can protest outside the White House without worrying too much about ICE, immigration, those are supposedly our enforcers. According to the Washington Times, illegal immigrant protesters also plan to demonstrate outside the White House on Monday afternoon to call on immigration groups to boycott any administration meetings until illegal immigrants are included in those talks. They're making demands. They expect to be included in the discussions of how quickly we can send them back home. Although, frankly, I don't expect any discussion of how quickly they can be sent back home to be on the table. That does not seem to fit the agenda. Oh, boy, this guy is a trip. He's a representative in Congress. The guy's name is Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen. He's a Democrat from Maryland. He was asked, do you think that allowing illegal aliens to stay in the United States and putting them on a path to citizenship will help unemployed Americans? Van Hollen responded, I think what we need to do is pass comprehensive immigration reform. Notice how I just totally sidestepped the question. And I just came from a hearing with the nonpartisan director of the Congressional Budget Office, who testified that if you passed the Senate bipartisan bill, you would reduce the deficit and increase long-term economic growth. Totally sidestepped the question, but this man seems to be convinced that bringing in a whole bunch of people who originated in nations that are communist in their bend and will expect the same sort of government assistance here that was promised to them in their homelands. Actually, they're kind of hoping that the deal here in the United States is a little bit better. Otherwise, why do you leave Honduras or Nicaragua or El Salvador? I mean, those are basically socialist nations. Why would you leave those honeypots and come here unless you expected the goody tree to be better? But this guy, Van Hollen, is trying to sell his constituents on the idea that bringing in all these illegal aliens is actually going to have a beneficial effect on the economy. I think whoever came up with the numbers that they're using to justify this must have assumed that what they were going to bring in was a whole bunch of hard-working Mexicans who would actually come here, get a job, make their own way, and actually pay some taxes. These fellas coming in, not so much. Another guy in Congress, a fellow named Sessions, he's taking a slightly different approach. He says the American people are being roused to action, and once activated, their power will be felt. They will not be mocked. This guy Sessions is warning his buddies in Congress that if they don't listen up and put the brakes on any funding for Obama's near-term legalization of 5 million, with the expected legalization of perhaps as many as an additional 25 million, Congress holds the purse strings. They can cut off his money. Okay? Obama's got a pen and he's got a cell phone, but Congress has to write the check. Anything that Congress blames on Obama is being paid for by Congress. Hold their feet to the fire. Don't let those SOBs dance away from their share of responsibility. This fellow in the picture here is the Tennessee governor. He is the governor of the state of Tennessee. His name is Haslam, H-A-S-L-A-M. He had to find out by going to the Health and Human Services website that his state had acquired 700 illegal aliens. He had no idea until he read it on the Health and Human Services website. So they don't even tell the governors that, you know, we're going to drop a whole bunch of these illegals in your state, and it's up to you to figure out how to take care of them, up to you to figure out how to integrate them into your society, up to you to figure out how you're going to pay to put them in school and how you're going to pay for their housing and care. They're on your doorstep now. deal with it. Haslam's not the only one. Apparently this is happening to small communities all around the country. It's interesting, though, that many of the localities where these illegals are being dumped happen to be Republican communities. We've apparently absorbed a couple of thousand here in Virginia. What I'm hearing is that none of the communities that lean Democratic are acquiring large numbers of new immigrants. Where they're being dropped appears to be in those areas of Virginia that are kind of Republican strongholds. Gee, you think maybe there might be some political motivation behind that? What do you think? Consider and make up your own mind. I'm hearing the music. Time for me to back out of here for a few minutes, but you be thinking about this question. Do you feel safer now that we've done all these things since 9/11? Be back with some more barking at the moon right after these important commercial announcements. All right. That's enough of the bumper. That's enough of the bumper. I'll tell you, that bumper is just a little too long. I could sit here and diddy bop to the bumper for the next 5 minutes. All right, moving right along. Fox News Network's John Stossel. I've seen this guy. He's done some good presentations. I've seen him on TV. He's not bad. Sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't. But he has released a very disturbing report on the abuses of Americans at the hands of Border Patrol agents who are stopping cars 100 miles inland from our borders all across the nation, not just in the Southwest. There was a report out that I read today. I did not include it in my pile here because, frankly, my pile was getting overwhelming. Some about, some Boy Scouts trying to cross back into Alaska from Canada. I mean, they were from Alaska. They apparently been on some kind of an outing or something, or trying to cross back into Alaska. And one of the scouts was taking pictures of the Border Patrol agents with his cell phone. And apparently, these Border Patrol agents responded by grabbing his phone, deleting the video, and pointing guns at the kid. Pointing guns at a Boy Scout, an American Boy Scout who's trying to get back home. But, if you're jumping the border, they put you up in the local Sheridan and, give you an EBT card and an Obama phone. Interesting. I tell you, that Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, keeps ringing in my head, as some of this stuff comes up. But yeah. Our Border Patrol, we pay those guys salaries. All right, here's this is a little bit scary, and I'm not here to make you lose sleep at night or scare you to death, but there is a new disease coming out of Africa called Ebola. And I'll tell you, Ebola has been around for a while. Some say this thing was a bioengineered disease. A lot of people say that about AIDS. I don't know. I don't know this for a fact. But apparently there is a new strain of this Ebola that kills more than half of the people who become infected. Now, this is serious, okay? Now, the Black Death that wiped out a large portion of Europe, decimated the population of Europe, was killing about 1 in 10. This new strain of Ebola, even with all of our modern medical technology, is apparently taking the life of better than half the people who become infected. Early symptoms of the disease include sudden fever, chills, and muscle aches. After the 5th day, a skin rash can occur. nausea, vomiting, chest pain, a sore throat, abdominal pain, and diarrhea may follow. Symptoms become increasingly severe and may include jaundice, severe weight loss, mental confusion, shock, and multi-organ failure. There is no known cure or vaccine for the virus, and this report is saying as many as 90% of those who contract the disease die from it. The numbers I've seen indicate it's 56%, but that is still a shocking number. But what are the odds of it infecting the U.S.? I mean, this disease is running rampant in Africa, right? So, while, we have a certain amount of sympathy for the Africans, we don't want them dying a hideous death of Ebola, but, that's a long way from home, right? Why should we be worried about it? Well, then we get back to this uncontrolled border that we've got right now. Not all those folks are coming in from South and Central America. As a matter of fact, some of them are coming in from as far away as China. I understand Chinese are paying as much as $30,000 each. $30,000 to be smuggled across our southern border. And yeah, we are getting our share of illegal immigrants entering from the South, from Africa. But it doesn't necessarily have to be an illegal bringing this disease into the United States. Although, frankly, if I was president, that would be high on my list of priorities to consider. But, an American guy by the name of Patrick Sawyer, who worked for the Liberian government and was visiting his sister in Liberia, developed symptoms while on a plane flight to Lagos, Nigeria. His wife, who, like Mr. Sawyer, is originally from Liberia, currently at the heart of the terrifying event, said he had been due to travel on to America, where he could have become patient zero in a U.S. epidemic. The 40-year-old father of 3 is believed to have contracted the disease from his sister, whom he was caring for without knowing she had Ebola. Mr. Sawyer took 2 flights to get to Nigeria from Liberia, where he had attended his sister's funeral. Mr. Sawyer died in a hospital in Lagos, Nigeria. The next leg of his journey would have taken him home to be with his wife and children in Minnesota. I have to imagine his wife and children right now are dealing with his death with mixed emotions. I'm sure they would have loved for their father to have made it home, but in some ways are probably thankful that, considering his condition, he didn't. That's how close we came. We dodged that bullet by that much. In this modern age of high-speed transportation, it's not out of the question that a disease as virulent as Ebola could happen here. It could happen here. About a minute from the break. Let's see how much of this next one I'm going to be able to get through. I suppose y'all heard that our Secretary of State, John Kerry, made another snafu. Remember back a while, we were all getting all ready to bomb the living daylights out of Syria. And he said, well, if Assad didn't have all those darn chemical weapons, we wouldn't really have a good excuse to bomb him back into the Stone Age. Get rid of it. No problem, no problem. And all of a sudden, we lost our good reason, bomb the living daylights out of Syria. Well, he did it again. You know, in attempting to negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Palestine, he presented a proposal that did not include Israel being able to maintain their blockade on Gaza and basically their complete control over the Gaza Strip. He actually apparently had the audacity to treat Hamas, which is the legitimately elected government of Gaza, he had the nerve to treat them like an equal player in the negotiations. Oh, you anti-Semite, you! Oh, you horrible anti-Semite! You think those Palestinians in Gaza are equal to the Jew? How dare you! And yes, that is the reaction that's flying. Once again, John Kerry has stepped in a big pile of doo-doo. And this time, I tell you, I'm almost ready to compliment him. Hey, we'll be right back after this short break with some more barking at the moon. Y'all stand by now. Now, let's see. How much of this bumper am I going to let run out before I still got quite a bit of stuff. You know, last week I kind of half promised my regulars that I was going to invite them to call in tonight and, you know, state their case on some of these issues that I'm covering in the news. But I'll tell you, I'm just not going to be able to do it tonight. I've got too, as usual, I bit off more than I could chew, and I got more stuff to cover than I'm going to have time available. So, you know, let's press on and see how much of it old Scarecrow gets through. Let's see here. We talked a little bit about our good friend John Kerry and his big snafu actually having the nerve to treat them Palestinians as equals in the negotiations with Israel. You know, there ain't no way. I mean, Israel gets what Israel wants. Otherwise, Mr. Kerry, you know, you'll be fired. And, you know, I sometimes come down kind of hard on Israel, and most of the time when I do, it is justified. Okay, their brutal treatment of the Palestinians living in what can only be described as something akin to the Warsaw Ghetto, as a form of collective punishment over the unfortunate actions of a small minority, is reprehensible. And frankly, the world considers what Israel is doing to Gaza to be a war crime. Israel is an out-of-control criminal nation. But, you know, I've also got to admit that, you know, Israel has some legitimate concerns. I mean, apparently, whether you decide to call them terrorists or freedom fighters doesn't really matter, but apparently there is a network of concrete reinforced tunnels leading all over Gaza, into Egypt, and into Israel, which I'm sure to some degree are used to smuggle in supplies, because, you know, Israel has had Gaza under quarantine for years. They're not allowed to fish in their waters. They're not allowed to exploit the oil and gas resources off their shores. They're not allowed freely to import and export goods. I mean, basically, they are under the boot of Israel and have been for years. So it's not surprising that, you know, they would develop methods to try and get around Israel's quarantine. But occasionally, these underground subways that they've built all over Gaza are used by extreme factions to do provocative acts against Israel. Occasionally it involves shooting up some of their military. Occasionally it involves a kidnapping. Occasionally it involves launching a totally unguided bottle rocket into close proximity of an Israeli settlement. It appears that 2 Israelis have died due to rocket attacks by Palestinian freedom fighters or terrorists, depending on which side of the fence you come down on. That's the best report we've gotten that included a number. Most folks say these things don't even get anywhere near any populated areas, but that, you know, let's give the Palestinians credit for at least being able to shoot halfway straight. They might have killed 2 Israelis. Over 1,000 Palestinians are currently dead, most of them uninvolved civilians, women, children, old men, anybody who could not get out of the way of Israel's bombs, mortars, and drones. It's gotten so bad that Israel has asked the United States for an additional $250 million to replenish the supplies of munitions. They're running out of bullets. And Gaza has been basically reduced to rubble. It's a form of collective punishment that Israel is enforcing on Gaza. They are being punished for having the audacity to legitimately elect a government that includes Hamas. Hamas doesn't much care for Israel. Can't imagine why. And considering this brutal collective punishment that Israel has enforced on Gaza, I suspect that Hamas has probably obtained a whole lot of new recruits. You murder somebody's family, chances are you're going to piss him off enough that he'll join up with anybody who has it in for you. And that is what's happening in Palestine right now. Now, what's the big deal? Why can't they just get along? Why can't everybody just get along? Well, long time ago, back in Roman times, Palestine covered the entire area. As a matter of fact, even parts of Lebanon and Syria were included in what at the time was known as Palestine. Now, the folks watching the video feed of this broadcast have an advantage. They have a little map up right now where I show the progression of Israel into Palestine since 1948. And, it's shocking how much territory Palestine has lost to Israel since 1948. Almost all of it. And with the Gaza Strip being one of the few last remaining vestigial organs of what used to be Palestine, we can only imagine that Israel is attempting to consolidate its territorial claims. Now, back when it was Palestine, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all lived together. I mean, did they live together happily? I'm sure there was fussing, and I'm sure there were feuds, but, there was also business being done, and there was intermarriage between the various religious faiths, and, basically, the people of Palestine got along just fine. It wasn't until the European invasion of 1948 when the Zionist elements of European Jewry decided to reestablish what they considered their biblical claim on Israel that the trouble really began. At this point, personally, I'm not convinced that a two-state solution is going to cut it, because you have the original occupants of that area absolutely infuriated that a bunch of crusaders have invaded territory that their kin lived on peacefully for a couple, 2,000-3,000 years. And all of a sudden, these Europeans come in and decide this land is theirs. And they're taking it at the point of a gun. I don't think you're going to convince these people to acknowledge the Europeans' claim to this territory. And unfortunately, these Zionist Jews of Europe are not likely to back down on theirs. So yes, one more piece of turf in the world, in addition to all the other ones we have to concern ourselves with, that might just be the strike, might just be the striker, might just be the match that lights off World War III. Now, it is a little scary to me, looking at the way things have gone over the last few years, and I'm just talking about the last 2 or 3. I'm looking at it and saying, holy cow, we've got, Iraq, which was supposed to be mission accomplished, is all of a sudden all falling apart. We got Afghanistan, that seems to be falling apart. We did this coup d'etat in Ukraine, and holy cow, that's starting to fall all apart. And, we liberated Libya, and oops, that's starting to fall apart. The war drums are starting to beat so loud, and so many people, particularly these, Israel firsters. Oh, Israel can do no wrong. Israel can do no wrong. They're allowed to kill Palestinian babies because those babies will grow up to be bomb-toting terrorists. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm starting to be more than just a bit concerned that the run-up to World War III is coming down a hell of a lot faster than I thought. Now, the flip side of that is, the only good reason for these globalist SOBs to really light the fuse and get World War III going, the only good reason is that they've totally lost control over the economy. And if they don't get us distracted with a big world war, the economy is going to collapse, and we'll actually be able to figure out whose fault it all is. So they need a real serious distraction, like a world war, to get our minds off. See, that way they can, the reason times are so hard is because the war's on. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I didn't steal that $1.5 quadrillion. No, that's not why you can't afford to buy your home, and why you ain't got no work, and why your car's being repossessed. No. It's because of the war. It's because of the war. Now, I started this segment asking you to consider, do you feel safer today than before 9/11? How's that working out for you, America? That's it for me. I'm Gary Hendershot signing off. I'll be back next week to do some more barking at the moon. Y'all take care now. Good night. Wow, I tell you, I didn't get through a whole bunch of stuff that I had in mind to get through. I had stuff on the Veterans Administration I wanted to bark about. And, oh boy, and all this stuff coming out of, all the fake materials that points to fingers at Russia over Ukraine. But hey, we'll have to take that up on another night. In any case, hope you all got a kick out of tonight's presentation. There are still at least a few who haven't given up on old Scarecrow. So if anybody, let me shut some of this nonsense down here. I tell you, I end up with so many. Okay, now I think I'm ready. All right, what all did I miss? What all did I miss? If you'll put that, I see. Is this okay? I've got the link. I'm going to include that link in the video description when I post this thing up to YouTube. For anybody who's unaware, a regular in the chat room, a fellow by the name of Adam Russell, is in need of some cancer treatments, and he's got a little fundraiser going on right now. He's trying to raise a little bit of money to pay for this nonsense. I don't know if any of you have ever gone through that, but it's no fun, and he has apparently figured out an alternative treatment that looks good to him, and he needs a little dough to pay for the treatments. So if you have a few extra bucks and you want to do something nice for somebody, I'm going to put the links in the video description when this goes up to YouTube, and I'll ask that maybe you kick in a couple bucks if you can help him out. In any case, guys in the audience, what did I miss? What is the hot topic that I should have covered that I didn't because I wasted so damn much time talking about immigration and how evil Israel is? Well, I tell you, I'm going to have I'm going to have AIPAC all over me. Let's see. If y'all about scientists getting flack for finding soft tissue fossilized in dinosaurs. It says the extinction was a lot more recent. Well, some say that some dinosaurs did live in conjunction with modern man. There are statuettes that have been dug up in tombs in South America that show people riding dinosaurs. Okay, now I don't think this was some kind of a promotional being done for the Flintstones, all right? I think this is a little older than that. I think it goes back almost 10,000 years. But yes, in some areas in South America, they have dug up what appear to be children's toys of people riding dinosaurs. So it may just be that dinosaurs did survive the age of extinction, even if it's just in small numbers, perhaps in small areas around the world, maybe a few here and a few there. And it is quite possible that modern man, in his early days, knew of such creatures. Let's see. Who else? What else did I miss? No, leg warmer's already installed. I'm not sure what that means, but hey. All right, what did I miss, guys? Did I miss anything good? BRICS Bank, gold-backed currency, Germany leaving EU. I meant, and it was in my pile, too. I meant to cover, the rumors that are going around about Merkel. Keep in mind, Merkel was East German before the reunification, okay? She's got a commie Ben to her, and she was part of the power elite in East Germany before the reunification. So Merkel's already got a soft spot in her heart for Russia. Okay, now you got the U.S. doing all this spying and not repatriating their gold in a timely fashion, and all the other slaps in the face that the United States and the EU have pounded on Germany with. Would it really surprise anyone if maybe, just maybe, Germany started looking to the east instead of the west? I mean, when you think about it, Russia's got a lot of energy reserves that Germany desperately needs. Germany has a tremendous manufacturing infrastructure and cheap Turkish labor that Russia could definitely use. It could be a very strong relationship. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But there are people smarter than me out there who are discussing such a possibility, as if, you know, this could possibly, on a dark and stormy night, happen. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Not really sure. Let's see. What else might I have missed? Yeah, North Korea. Yeah, North Korea wants to bomb the White House. Yeah, that's hype. Okay. It's kind of like, the fearless leader of North Korea threw one of his uncles to dogs. That was bullshit too. So much crap comes out. What I would be looking for at this point is a really nasty false flag, something that makes 9/11 look like child's play. I would expect multiple cities across the United States to all be hit simultaneously. They tried to pull that off with 9/11. They tried to do the thing in New York and the thing at the Pentagon, and it was supposed to be a little bit bigger than it turned out to be. Frankly, they did not kill enough people during 9/11, and doggone it, probably because of this internet thing, an awful lot of people got too smart too quick and figured out that they were bamboozling us. Well, this next time around, I think you're going to find that the internet goes down so that those of us who are attuned to looking for a false flag will not be able to report it. And you will see multiple poofs go off in more than one city across the United States. I mean, obvious targets are Detroit. Detroit is an obvious target. Chicago is an obvious target. Pittsburgh is an obvious target. Think Rust Belt cities, okay? Cities that, they would like to rewild anyway, and we really don't have any need for them anyway, because the industries that those cities used to support are, already exported to India and China. So, those are basically, welfare cities. Don't really need them anymore. So, gee, if a little nuke went off in those cities, who would miss Detroit at this point? New York, nah, see, that's a financial center. I mean, you might find a small surgical strike in New York, but I guarantee it would not take out any of the Jewish bankers. There's no way they would lay a hand on a Jewish banker in New York. You think anything's going to happen in the Hamptons? No way. And if they hit the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, I guarantee you they will not hit Montgomery County, Maryland. Okay? It just won't, it will not happen. It will not happen. They'll get, PG County in Maryland or something like that. Maybe they'll get Anacostia in D.C. That's close enough to, it's close enough to the Capitol building to be scary. If they blow up Anacostia, mostly what they're going to get is poor blacks and Hispanics. They're not going to get any of the power elite. So something of that nature. If they're going to hit D.C., it'll be surgical. If they're going to hit New York, it'll be surgical. They'll take out lower middle class working people who are out of work right now. They will not take out the uppers. So you'll see very surgical strikes in those areas. Detroit, they could lay waste to Detroit. Nobody'd miss it. But that's, I would be looking for that about now, because see, they need something that they can blame on Russia, China, Syria, Iran. You know, those are the guys that they really want you pissed off at. Boy, if there was any way they could get Brazil in on that too, you know, but Brazil's not a bellicose nation. Brazil's not out there waving its nukes and, you know, having a, you know, my dick is bigger than your dick contest with everybody else in the world. So, you know, you know, but they would love to get all of the BRICS nations involved, because even though the current status of this BRICS version of the IMF is really no threat to the powers that be, it starts a trend. And these boys don't like trends. So, you know, look for the internet to no longer be available, and then these false flag events. And you know, we're talking, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5 cities all around the United States, so that they can definitely point the finger at a major player. And, you know, their wet dream is that we get back to a serious staring down the barrel of a nuke Cold War scenario. They really don't want a hot war yet, because the power elite, they've still got some raping, pillaging, and plundering to do. And they could do that best if they had about another 10, 15, 20 years of Cold War, where we're staring down a nuke at each other, you know, long enough to let them consolidate the last little bit of wealth that exists in Western countries, then take it to the all-encompassing conflagration. That would be their ideal. Problem is, just the slightest misstep at this stage in the game. Wouldn't take much of a misstep, and all hell could break loose. You know, so anyway, that's my opinion. My opinion, and $5. Get you a cup of coffee from that high-priced yuppie place. Anything else that I missed, guys? Anything else that I missed? Insane McCain and his buddy. yeah. Oh God, you know, my biggest fear is that folks are going to get so pissed off at Obama and blame the Democrats that they'll elect a neocon. God. Remember now, the only reason we got Obama is because so many people said anything but another frickin' neocon Republican. Okay, well, you got anything but now we're going to be, oh my God, anything but another Obama. Oh, and now we're going to get another neocon. You know, you ever start feeling like a ping pong ball getting bounced back and forth? Yeah, you know, they've been playing this game on us for so long, and we are such suckers. God, we are suckers. GOP suing Obama. Yeah, that's more smoke and mirrors. It's empty threats. They're not going to impeach the SOB. Okay, articles of impeachment should have already been served. You know, this is like Rick Perry. Rick Perry could have put the National Guard on his border 5 years ago, and he didn't. This is all showmanship. You know, it's play for the cameras, make the suckers believe you're doing something for them. Look, they could close that border tomorrow if they wanted to. Don't kid yourself. Eisenhower did it. Eisenhower did it with less money and less military than they're spending now to put them up in the Sheridan. Okay? And all these National Guard on Ricky Perry's border are going to do is they're going to say, here, Mr. Illegal Alien, yes, your Border Patrol agent is right over there. He's got an EBT card for you and a voucher for the days in. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. I mean, you know, they're not going to be arresting anybody. They're not going to be securing the border. They're going to help babysit. There's too damn many illegal aliens down there for the Border Patrol to babysit them all. They need more babysitters. Anyway, I'm tired. It's about time for me to bag it. Go ahead and boost this thing up to YouTube. Hope you all enjoyed tonight's presentation. You betcha. I'll be back to do some more barking at the moon next week. Good night, all.
Ooh, calling, calling out to you. Won't you turn, turn, won't you turn around?